Other religions are less interested in rationality and accept facts which are, to rational analysis, clearly absurdly false. But here, rational falsehood is not the point. Followers of non-rational religions take the incredible facts offered in their Bibles, Torahs, and Korans as literally true by crossing over to them on a bridge called belief. They believe that God really factually exists, or that there really is life after death, or that we really have 10 chakras, or that Jesus really died for our sins. But none of these imaginary facts can tell us what good and bad are, or how to behave even if they are true. The discovery of meditative alpha waves, or the lost city of Atlantis, or the spear that pierced Christ's side are no different to discovering that vitamin D can enhance your immune system. We may or may not accurately conclude such discoveries are factually true and useful to know, but we can never conclude that they therefore mean that something or other is good or bad, or that it is good or bad to act in a certain way. This, by the way, is why the great philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein said that the primary question about life after death is not whether it is a fact, but even if it is, what problem that really solves. What problem does it really solve to know that God exists, or that souls resurrect? None. They just add more facts to our knowledge. Well, I would strongly discourage from considering those references, right? So it's an implicit way of grooming you into have a particular understanding of facts without having a strict definition that is argued for philosophically, right? This sounds like it's not even mysticism, right? It's not even sophistry. Sophistry maybe, right? Some light sophistry. It's just sort of a bunch of words that sort of tries to convince you without actually going all the way and do it rigidly. So I am so sick and tired of this kind of sophistry, or of this kind of, sophistry, but sort of word salad. We haven't gotten anywhere yet, right? We are 1/4 through the text already. It's just annoying. Of course, that is precisely why people love miracles so much. The amazing exploits of the mythic Jesus, the mythic Mohammed, and the mythic Buddha, and in our secular age, the mythic James Bond, the mythic, oh my God, my God, right? The mythic Spider-Man and the mythic Gandalf. These mere ideas entertain them and distract them. Oh, those little poor bastards. So how are we to know? That's the we again, right? It's a collective thing we are going here. What good and bad are? Well, start by defining what you mean by good and bad. Don't presuppose anything. Otherwise, you're not doing philosophy. At least start out by referencing, if you're not going to do the necessary philosophy before you can do this, right? Reference the metaphysics and reference the epistemology and the definitions of knowledge and things, and what does it mean, the ethics behind what is good and what is bad, what is meant by that, right? What is meant by it? We can't know what they are if we don't understand what is meant by them, right? So you're tapping into prejudice in order to get somewhere in this kind of philosophical dissertation, right? This is so prevalent in these kinds of articles and in the way people write nowadays, and possibly throughout history, right? They always use terms that had a prejudicial understanding and then try to manipulate, twist that around in order to, out pops an odd or something like that, right? I don't buy it, right? Where are we to find quality if not in the facts? It certainly cannot be found in emotions or in so-called intuitions based on those emotions, which may be pleasant or unpleasant, but are finally also kinds of facts, and just as unreliable. Who can trust an emotional person? Activity also, it's also, starting out a potential, an indication that you might have found a solution to the question of the ages, right? By throwing word salad at you and questions and things like that. It does sound to me like, well, you're trying to drown the actual crappy solution somewhere down the line in all sorts of text that is not necessary in order to get there, right? And mostly possibly to sound like you know what you're doing. Sound like it doesn't mean that you do know it, right? Or you do understand how to get it. Activity is also a kind of fact, as is physical sensation. Why is it a fact? What does it mean that it's a fact? You need to define things here, right? You can't just throw around words as if it's given. If everything is given, why are you doing it the article anyway? Because if you're relying on it being given to some extent, and then you have to, clarify things using philosophy. What's the difference between it being given and you have to do philosophy? Why don't you have to do everything? And if something is given, why isn't everything given then? Why do I need you to tell me what is not given? What is it? Right? You need to clarify these things. They might lead to all kinds of pleasure or away from all kind of pain. But there is no way ever that they can ever. That's about the future also, right? So he's trying to predict the future here. That they can reveal moral truth. Well, now you are combining the idea of truth and morality, right? You're doing it linguistically only here, right? You're not saying, okay, you have to be careful when you're trying to mix the idea of truth with which is a reference to knowledge, in my opinion, and you maybe even fact, right? And then morality and clamp them together and say moral truth. Can they reveal moral truth? No, but you're not saying, can I create a sentence called moral truth? Instead, you are presupposing it's okay to do it and saying, can it reveal the moral truth? And then you get away with introducing the combination of morality and truth without even clarifying whether or not you are even allowed to do it, right? This is sophistry, right? Or beauty or any other kind of quality. Nobody who tries to arrive at quality by basing their decisions on what feels nice, physically or emotionally, or by simply running around like a chicken with its head cut off, ever finds it. Take a look around you. Are the most rational people, including the new Stoics, Buddhists, and shaman, the most joyous, the most moral, the most lovely? How the hell would I know? How do I recognize a Stoic? Do they have special ears or something like that? Do they have this particular hair color? Or, do I have to ask them if they say, yes, I'm a Stoic, then okay, then I know it's... Is that a fact? People claiming something? Have you heard about lying? I mean, this is ridiculous, man, right? And you would possibly be more convincing if you didn't throw all this bullshit text at me before you get to the point where you basically tell me that you do not know what you're doing, right? And you don't have a clear grasp of the core tenets of philosophy, notably metaphysics and epistemology, and some ethics in order to have any idea of good and bad, right? What about very religious people or extremely emotional people? What about those who don't stop working, or those who are only interested in physical pleasure? Do any of these people genuinely inspire you? Do you feel good in their company? Do they strike you as any kind of moral authority? But what's a moral authority now? What the hell is that? Are they particularly selected people by some authority somewhere say, yes, you are an authority on morality. Give me a break, man. That doesn't, everybody is equally a moral authority, right? That's why you have to have your own philosophy. You can't wait for somebody to come and tell you how to behave, right? You are your own moral authority. There are nobody else. You must take authority over your own life, right? No, there is no moral truth, no quality, no good or bad in the mind, the will, the emotions, or the body, which is to say, in the self. The self is just a collection of things. Things? So this is a bit of metaphysics, I suppose, right? They're saying you can't do metaphysics and arrive at a moral truth. But it's just this, no, there is not this, there's not that, there's not this, and there's not that. These are just conclusions or statements that are alluding to be conclusions without the necessary philosophy. And if you call that which you have done so far philosophy, I will sort of challenge that to the nth degree, right? That's just polemicness. That's not philosophy. There's no reference to a reduction base here, for instance, right? There's no definition of knowledge. There's no definition of anything, basically, right? Or if there are, it's hidden between the lines or something like that, right? Anyone who asserts that the self is the source of quality or that it is the final judge of right and wrong is selfish. They will probably go to great lengths to conceal their selfishness. But if the quality of their lives is based on their thoughts, emotions, and actions and sensations, it is based on no quality at all. It is an illusion. And I'm not really sure what the hell he's talking about here. The self, source of quality, we have to clarify that quality was something else, that qualia. It was more like in a value, right? Quality equals value. Why does it? Who gave you that permission? I've never seen it presented like that. Maybe I have, but I would never. It's this mixing the words together and then sort of hoping that there might pop out something that, so now, see, there it was. Did you see that? It popped out of my words, right? The only place quality can be found, the only thing in my actual real experience that is good, that can tell me what good is, that is not. I have to be careful here. The only place, so that's somewhere in space, right? Quality can be found. The only thing in my actual real experience, so that would be the qualia, right? And your emotions and so on. That is good. Okay, so now he's pointing to something good that is a thing that can be found in him somewhere, that can tell me what good is. An experience that is good that can tell you what good is. So it is good and can tell you what good is. How does that work? Well, all I'm hearing is you're throwing around terms in order to hope that something pops out of that in a sort of a sophist manner, right? And it seems like you're using the term good in more than one equivocation fallacy, what's it called, right? That is neither a fact, nor an emotion, nor an activity, nor physical sensation, is attention. Attention is the only experience within myself which is not ultimately self. Oh man. It's manipulative, right? You're just bringing in some words that I have a hard time understand what exactly you mean, right? You have talked about places and quality and finding things and actual reality and experience and good and telling a fact and emotion, activity, experience, attention. It's a load of words without clarified understandings, right? That you said, okay, attention. Okay, so the magic word is attention. That this is apparently going to be the bridge. Attention. I mean, one word is not going to crack it, mate, right? You can't just throw a word at me and say, hey, I bridged the gap, right? I found a word and it's attention, right? When I make this sound, attention, I am bridging the gap between... No, I'm not buying that so far at least, right? Okay. Honestly, I'm still open that he might have found the Holy Grail, right? I have not my hopes up. Let me be clear about that. But I'm still open for the possibility, right? I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, right? Okay, but here we encounter a tremendous difficulty because there are two kinds or modes of attention. One is thing-like and the other is quality-like. Two modes of attention. So what's a mode? Right? So it's the same thing, but it's different, right? He came up with a word, and now he's splitting it in two, right? Two modes. They can't be the same because they must be different. Otherwise, it couldn't talk about thing-like and quality-like, right? So he's trying to convince you that there is a bridge, and now he's sort of trying to split it up. This end meets here, and the other end meets over here, right? Because he found this magical word called attention. The reason I say tight, what I mean is that your attention can be tightly focused, not just focused, but tightly focused, right? Remember that it's tightly, not just focused, right? On a factual thing, or it can be softly focused on. What's the difference between a fact and a thing? He used to talk about facts. Now it's about things. So he's switching the terms over, right? That's also a sign of bad philosophy. Or it can be softly focused on an experience of quality. But is quality an experience in this sense, right? And quality was being equated with value. So he's sort of sneaking in value through quality, and you might forget about quality actually meaning value, but then thinking of quality as the colors and the sounds and so on, right? So he sophistry, twists the words around, and you try to drag them this way or that way or the other way, and bringing a new word or it's all word salad. As I said at the beginning, at the outset of this, it's always about screwing around with the words, right? He could use the same words that Hume uses, right? Why not? He is bouncing off of Hume, so why not use Hume's terms in a sense, right? Or build from it at least, so we know what we are talking about, right? If you stare at something in the room hard, not just staring, but staring hard, it becomes more and more thing-like, separated from all the other things in the room and only related to them through thing-like relations. What are thing-like relations? What are those? What sound does a thing-like relation have? Can I only look? Can I not hear them? It's only looking, not hearing or smelling or tasting. So it's a thing I can't taste or hear. I only can look at it, right? Or what? Can I taste the thing-like relation, right? How does this work? How does it work? Again, this is bringing in stuff without explanations, right? This is pure sophistry now at this level, right? If, however, you loosely regard something, relaxing your attention and taking everything else in with it, the rest of the room, the individual quality of the object starts to become more apparent. That is what less civilized people do. The Navajo have two ways of looking, a hard look for hunting and a soft look for taking in the beauty of a scene. And what our greatest artists do and what they try to express with their work. To the hard-focusing mind of Van Gogh's chair is just a strangely drawn thing, kind of pretty, distinctive perhaps, or original or creative, certainly valuable. Certainly. Why? What do you mean valuable? What do you mean certainly? You can't just say certainly and then prove something. The word certainly is not a proof, right? But it is to say, of course it's valuable. How the hell do I get to it? It's just a slab of paint on a canvas, man. What makes it? What is it about it that is valuable? And shouldn't you say that it's quality rather than valuable? Because you were supposed to say that valuable is quality. So now you're going back to valuable. But the strangeness remains a work of imagination, just a kind of fact. To the soft focusing mind, however, the chair expresses a quality which is actually there. Where is it? It is. You can't just say it's there. I have an emotional reaction maybe to the painting, but that's not something in the painting. That's something in me. And the painting is also an experience inside me. I don't know what the hell is out there, right? But when you are bridging, when you're doing the Hume fallacy, you're basically talking to an outside that has to behave in an outside and receive what you say in an outside you do not have access to. If you're following the teachings of Bernardo Castro, right? So you are extracting your values from the inside of your cockpit and saying those values are out there. It's not obvious. You're just saying it as if it follows. That will never work. That will never work for me. Basically, I will treat you as a sophist from now on, right? You're just trying to screw around with my mind and using words in order to convince me that you are actually experiencing X out there, right? No. There are colors, there are sounds, there are tastes, there are feels, and there are touch, right? Smell. Oh, 5. Eh? So, that's what you have. There's not a sixth channel where value arrives, right? And if you attach value to those qualia or combinations of those qualia, or potentially the cognitions that you extract from the qualia, right? Then you are adding that from the inside. That means that value is not out there. So you can't go and say to another person, that value is out there. That is the problem, basically, that Hume is pointing to. Maybe without saying it explicitly, but that's my contention about it, right? The reason people fundamentally disagree about such things, about the quality of things, paintings, say, or songs, or faces, or even ideas, is that one or both of them are not actually experiencing its quality. Their attention is focused on the thing and whatever emotions and thought they associate with the thing. Okay, so it's a part of the being. It's within their mind. It's not out there, right? It sounded like you were appealing to some kind of objective standard or something like that of value in the thing itself. Because if it's not in the thing itself, you can't do the is-ought, right? Because then you can't point to an is. You can do it to yourself maybe, but you can't blame it on somebody else and say, hey, you should do this or that. Because they are out in that thing you are not a part of, right? Otherwise you're just talking to your experiences, and I suppose that's not what you're going for, right? Because their attention is think-focused, quality is not just absent from their consideration, but they have no way of knowing it is absent. They think they understand, they have an emotion of understanding, it looks like they understand, but they do not understand. hard attention doesn't really understand anything. I'm just reminded that recently Bernardo Kastrup has repeated several times, 2 times at least, maybe 3 times, thrice, that he pays attention. He pays attention to the big mind. It's trying to do something through him. And it listens here, go and write a book, Bernardo. And then he starts to write a book, right? He pays attention, yes. So it what's it called? It segues, it fits the agenda of the Bernardo Kastrup headlining of Essentia Foundation about attention, and attention being some kind of ought, right? Or, some kind of extraction from an ought, from an is, right? Hard attention doesn't really understand anything. It does not. Okay, it's again this, it's not enough to say attention, but he has to delineate between hard attention. So he creates new words in order to say he's, created something, right? That's also combining old words into a new meaning and say, that's because you do not understand. I combine these 2 words and create some new philosophy here, right? All it can do is work out what to do or try to, and this never really works. It just creates more problems, which the concentrated self tries to deal with I'm completely lost in this babble. Right? I'm not completely lost, but I'm getting more and more impatient with this, right? Over time, hard attention tends to get harder and harder, which makes the self harder and harder. What is this? Is he psychologizing now or what? This is why there's no we, right? Talk about yourself. We call such people uptight and stiff. They might be sloppy and slovenly or have a feeble, watery will, but there is something about them which is horribly inflexible, heavy, humorless and dull, which expresses itself in the tone of their voices. Yeah, well, I'm not fucking dull, right? I'm basically screaming to everybody, don't listen to all this fucking bullshit, right? So at least I'm not one of these feeble-minded creatures. Express itself in the tone of their voices, the way their faces and bodies move. To put it another way, you are what you notice. Oh man, holy shit, man, what a load of bullshit, man. Attention doesn't just manifest in appearance but in action. The stiff self produces nothing of originality. It says nothing really new. It does nothing really new. It thinks, it says nothing really new. It does nothing really new. It thinks nothing really new because it is forever focused on things and the ideas they give. Which can never be new. Oh, I see. Oh, yes. The philosophers and the social aware people, they are not these cold, calculated, materialist, capitalists, right? Only are out to buy new things at, what's it called, Black September, Black November, or whatever, Black Friday, and they only can hard look at things. They're not soft looking at the value, right? No, they are sort of these bad people, and we have to control them. We have to have, authorities who tell us about science and tell us that there are certain molecules in the chocolate, so we know it. We have to be told, so we know. So we have to tell people what to do, basically, right? There are some people who can extract the odds. All the idiots out there only interested in getting the latest iPhone. They're stupid. They are hard-looking. You can see it all come together, right? Oh, man, what a fucking commie, man. When I focus hard on a tree, for instance, separating it from its context, how do you separate it? How the hell do you do that? Let me see if I have actually a tree out here. No, outside my window here, right? I can't isolate it. I can't isolate it. There's also other stuff, the sky and the fence and the building beyond the tree and so on that sort of comes through the twigs and so on. I can't isolate it. So it's not, I'm convincing myself I'm isolating. I'm saying, isolate, 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 isolate. Oh, I isolated it. Oh, just by, mind trick. Give me a fucking break, man. Separating it from its context, giving it a name, call it Johnny or something. Hey, Johnny the tree, a tree beard. It becomes knowable. Well, okay, now we're doing epistemology. It's just like, so, done, epistemology. Now we have knowledge. What do you mean? I mean, I'm not necessarily not on the page here. It becomes knowable, but you don't know it. It's only knowable. Does that mean you know it now? Or are you just saying, okay, now it could be knowable? At what point do you know it then? What does it mean to know it? Do you have to stare at the fucking tree for several, call it names in order to become... You're not sitting in your fucking car and staring at a car over there, because there are all sorts of other cars you need to, you can't do that. So you can't have knowledge when you drive a car then, right? You can't give them all names or what? How does this work, man? What kind of philosophy is this, man? It's fucking crazy, man. Oh, and manageable, because it is acquiring a form I have learned. I recognize the tree as thing, because I have learned to do so. What do you mean you have learned to do so? Could you describe how you learned it? Did you just learn to call it tree, but you could actually cognize it way before you could call it tree, maybe? You had to differentiate between those aspects, I would say, right? This recognition is, of course, useful, but it can never really be original because it's not mine. Well, what? The tree as thing because I have learned to do so. This recognition is, of course, useful because it can never really be original. Because it's not. What do you mean it's not yours? The experience is not yours? Because the experience of tree is a cognition, as you just said. So it must be your cognition. Nobody is implanting cognitions into you, right? And the cognition is based on those qualia, the color, the sound, and so on, of tree, right? So what is it that is not yours? I don't understand. I simply don't get this, right? And they're so, all of a sudden, it's again this, a fluffy text way from the start, and now it becomes knowable. Now there's cognition. Now that it can't be known, and it's like whoa, hang on, man. You're spreading the butter thin on the bread for a long time, and now I get 10 slices of bread in one mouthful, right? You need to balance things here so I can follow you, right? This is too complex. I can't understand what he means here. Okay, the tree itself, however, the mysterious being of it. Why do you now say it's a being? What's the being of it? You have the cognition, you have the colors. Why do you need to call it being? What are you adding to it in order to call it being? Or are you just conflating the words now, right? Blended with the whole moment comes to me direct. What do you mean direct? How do you know it comes to you? What if it's outside you before it comes to you? So how do you know it's direct if you don't know what it is before it comes to you? How do you know? You're just saying it's direct because you want it to be, or what? Don't you understand the aspects of metaphysics and potentially idealism here, right? it sounds like you don't understand idealism or the problems of, heart problem and so on. To the extent it does come to me direct, it inspires absolutely new ideas. These will also have something of the known about them, but at their heart there is something genuinely new. I mean, what is this? There are no references to definitions about morality or the terms Hume used and so on. I mean, there's no reference to order or anything. If that's the title of the page is digging out the order or something like that, right? It's just weird. And this was one of the greatest articles they have ever had. Holy shit, that says a lot about the standards for this foundation, right? Stiffs naturally are unable to see this. Oh, so now we are creating an us versus them, right? And of course he's on the right thinking side. Always. That's always. And he's possibly a Christian or somebody who has been raised in a Christian faith, right? They are always on the right side of things, and they find somebody can say they are outside and they are the bad ones. They are guilty. They are, they are not following the edicts, and right? And then they place themselves on the good side, right? That's what these self-absorbed, crazy Christians always do, right? And other religious people, for that matter, possibly. But I would hazard a guess here, right? This is why they often tell us that there is no such thing as originality. That all of culture is really just a clever rehash. Rehash, right? Hitchcock said that style was, what was it called? Self-reproduction, self-plagiarism, right? You're plagiarizing yourself, then you have a style, right? But a lot of people say, well, a bad artist imitates, right? A good artist steals. I even think that Picasso said that, but one of the greats said that, right? I mean, it's like I don't know, why the hell do I care? We're doing Hume scissor here, man, right? Get to the point, man. They focus entirely on those aspects of culture which are rehashed, such as the various ideas of expressions which Shakespeare took from others, and conclude that really the creativity of the genius is really a refined form of plagiarism, which is exactly what the creativity of stiffs is. All they can do is move things around, rephrase them, give them a shiny new... That's what he does in his philosophy article here, man. He's just moving around words and saying, old wine on new bottles, right? I gave a new label here and a new term there, and right? He's a stiff. Philosophical stiffy, right? Remind me, that was in the late 70s, there was a new wave label in the UK called Stiff Records, which was basically on the forefront of the early new wave bands, right? They had a parole, what's it called? What's it called when you have a sentence, right? It said, if it's not stiff, it's not worth a fuck, right? I thought that's a brilliant punkish, headline, right? Okay, never mind. We'll take it from the beginning. Stiffs naturally are unable to see this. This is why they often tell us that there is no such thing as originality, that all of culture is just a clever rehash. They focus entirely on those aspects of culture which are rehashed, such as the various ideas and expression of Shakespeare, to conclude that really the creativity of the genius is really a refined form of plagiarism, which is exactly what the creativity of stiffs is. All they can do is move things around, rephrase them, give them a shiny new gloss, but never ever bring any fresh quality to the heart of what they do. That's exactly what he does here without even realizing it, man, right? It might be terribly clever, even unusual, but with the tight, selfish thing human, there is always a sense that nothing original, nothing actually new is really being offered here. There are no shockingly original revelations. There is no bright laughter as we recognize quality. There is nothing but stuff. Oh, so this is how they do it, right? If they can't argue, they have to create a trench warfare, right? They have to create a right way, wrong way, and put themselves on the right way and say, it's because of those over there. Sophist, right? You are a disgrace to philosophy, man, right? What the frick are you doing, man? This is an embarrassment, man. Soft consciousness is quite different, but not for the reason that stiffs believe. Hard consciousness, reducing soft consciousness to a thing, takes it to be a thing which can be possessed by buying it, or by learning about it, or arrived at through some kind of technique or practice. This is how modern Buddhists and shamans view enlightenment, as something which can be studied by reading books or achieved by spending a few months in Tibet or ingesting sufficient quantities of Psilocybe mexicana. I believe, I would hazard a guess that that's some kind of psychedelia, right? Not that such things are without truth value. Oh, so now we have truth value, right? Give me a definition of what truth is, right? We are doing morality, so it might be a good idea that you define what you mean by truth. And truth value. Can you combine truth and value? Because truth is a reference to some knowledge, right? Or it's actually, in my opinion, a reference to a proposition. A proposition can be true or false, not a value, right? You're just mixing terms here in order to make it sound like you're actually a philosopher, which you're not, right? You're a pretender, right? You want to sound like you're philosophical, and then you want to create a trench warfare so you can sit with the right thinking and point at the wrong thing and say it's their fault, right? Suck it, man, right? But consciousness is not a thing. It is not an event in time, but experience itself. The truth or depth of my experience is not a moment thing, which a witnessing thing can access through certain kind of knowledge things or action things. Action things and knowledge things. I mean, okay. Now, I'm not taking this thing seriously anymore, right? I'm in a not taking seriously thing here, okay? This is absolutely atrocious philosophy, man, right? And you're mentioning Hume in this garbage? How dare you, man? He was actually a decent philosopher. You are not, right? And anybody in their right mind would not publish garbage like this? Holy crap, it's bad, man. So what is it? And if it's not a literal thing, what can be communicated? Why speak of it at all? What? What is what? So what is what? It? What is it? Yes, but what that is that it you are talking about? You have thrown out 30, 40, 50 different terms, and now you say, so what is it? What the hell are you talking about? I'm not saying you're not talking about anything, but I don't know what you're talking about. You can't just say, so what is it? And if it's not a little thing, but who says it's not a who says it's a thing? You mean, holy crap, this is stupid, right? I mean, I can't believe, what is this? Who would want shit like this on their webpage, man? Ugh. There are two ways to present the truth. Oh, the truth! So now he has settled knowledge, apparently, right? You can't make a proposition without having knowledge, in my opinion. And in order to have truth, you need to propose it. Otherwise, it can't be true, because truth is a consequence of a proposition, right? It's either true or it's false. He haven't presented knowledge. He hasn't talked about propositions. He's combining truth and value, and all these terms are just being thrown around, just like he says the stiff person does, without going anywhere, right? So he's basically blaming some other congregation of people for that which he actually does himself, right? Why would I take this seriously, right? I mean, there's nothing even here to take seriously. I'm basically not sure what the hell he's trying to do, right? I don't see any bridge between is and ought here anywhere, right? It might be alluding to this attention thing. I say, hey, I can bridge the stiff and the hard one, right? The stiff and the soft one. Getting hard on here, right? Oh. One is to indirectly express what it is. This is the purpose of art. Is it? Or fiction or myth? What is an indirect? Give me an example of an indirectly expression of truth. Right? If I take a canvas and slap some colors on, what's the implicit truth there? What's the indirect truth? What is that? Because you need to have the direct truth in order to get to an indirect truth, right? So why do you care about indirect truth? What is it? He's walking around the actual problem he's trying to solve and throwing words at me until I'm so confused that I have to bow down and say, I guess this fancy academic knows what he's talking about, so it's just me who's stupid, right? This is the oldest fucking trick in the sophist book, right? Don't trust this. If you feel confused, stay with that. Don't trust anything that is confusing. Don't do that. Don't just say, okay, I guess it's me. No, don't do that. I beg you, I implore you. I'm not telling you what to do. I am encouraging you to think like that, right? Because somebody who had actually found the Holy Grail of philosophy would make absolutely clear that you understand that he's found it, right? Because he might get the fucking, Nobel Prize of Philosophy at some point, right? He wouldn't drown in word salad, right? That would be stupid, right? Here we need the other is to break down the lies tight consciousness clings to and let the truth speak for itself. Oh, so now the truth can start speaking. So now truth is a sound that talks to you, or what? Give me a fucking mystic break, man. It is impossible for a short account like this to break down a hard self, to break the heart of the reader, to cause them real pain, but life will do that. Here we need only note, by way of conclusion, that once the tight self has been broken down enough, moral decisions, like all good ideas, happen by themselves. Oh, okay. Let me take this one again, right? It is impossible for a short account like this. Okay, so I have a big thing. There's not room enough for me here. Yes, I've spent, 10 chapters throwing word salad at you, but then I have to conclude, no, there's not room enough for the big explanation here. You just have to be satisfied with the short version, right? To break down a hard self, to break the heart of the reader, to cause them real pain, but life will do that. Here we need only note by way of conclusion that once the tight self has been broken down enough, moral decisions, like all good ideas, will happen by themselves. So it's about those people who do not conform in some way that this idiot has set up, right? And they have to be fucking broken down into submission in order to be good citizens, right? Something like that. You might choose some other words, right? That's what I'm hearing, right? This is about fucking control. This is by, subduing people, right? There's something wrong with them. They are thinking the wrong way. We might as well put them in the gulags, right? or the concentration camps, or whatever, right? I don't like fucking lingo like this, right? I'll be absolutely clear about that, right? Nobody should talk to me about people needing to be broken down enough, right? You have a tight self. You need to be broken down enough so you can behave correctly, right? That's what he was told as a child by mommy and daddy. That's why they hit him. That's why they treated him like shit, right? In order to break him. Right? And that's why he finds some people, okay, they need to be broken down there. I can't go and beat up my parents, so I'm going to beat those bastards over there who can't conform, right? Fuck off, man. This is why it is so useless to try and be inspired, to go looking for the right thing to do, or the right way to live. All wisdom, all genius, all right action comes of itself, naturally, without having to think, or try, or even decide. Man, yes, if you are a right-thinking person, which of course he is a part of, and everybody possibly in the Essentia Foundation, and the editing office there, and so on, right? It's some over there, and who has to be, they have to be managed. They have to be broken down into well-behaving people, right? Spare the rod, spoil the child, right? Good people. Okay, so there are good people and bad people, right? Give me a fucking break. Are you going to bring in 2,000-year-old mysticism from the Middle East in order to argue with me, right? That there are some people who are good and some people who are bad, right? And you are, of course, in the part where the good people are. You're standing there among the good people that you have defined as the good people, right? And those who are standing over there, of course, the bad people, right? They're not thinking right. They need to be managed. Good people are not those who make decisions the world universally agrees are moral, but those for whom there are no decisions. There may be in the most intense moments of our life, dramatized in the most intense stories, epic moral decisions to make, but the good life is characterized by an absence of choice because the self, which turns possible outcomes into things and facts, about which paths to take to reach them, is no longer in charge. So is he just saying you'll lay down and die and wait to die? Or what is this? Absence of choice? So the self, if you are being yourself, you're turning into a stiffy, right? I mean, this has turned to a darker place in my. These are crazy people, man. These are fucking crazy people in the Essentia Foundation, right? I mean, what the hell is this? We are living in the 21st century. This sounds like something from the Middle Ages, man. Holy crap, man. Think of it this way. Okay, so now it tells you how to think, right? You are walking along the top of a cliff when you see someone fall into a cranny. Not a granny, but a cranny. Beyond reach. This person is unhurt, but the tide is coming in. They cannot swim, and in an hour they will drown. It will take you 30 minutes to run along one thin rocky path. How do you know it will take 30 minutes? How do you know? What about 25 minutes, right? How do you know it's actually 30 minutes? How can you set up these scenarios with these very strict insights into knowledge, right? Along one thin rocky path, back to town, and 30 minutes for the emergency service to arrive. How do you know that? What if they have to take a shit? Or what if they, drive faster than they usually do? Then they will arrive faster or later. How do you know all this? Well, you don't. This is the trolley problem bullshit, right? What decision do you make? Anyone who chose anything other than run as fast as you can along the path, anyone who dawdle and who indulge themselves in decision making would be considered immoral. Oh man, I can't believe how crazy this is, man. And the article ends here. Darren's collection of radical pieces atrocious. All of life is like this. We can persuade ourselves that it is not, because we cannot see humankind is drowning, and because we are trained to persuade ourselves that we don't care whether it does or not. Holy crap, man. And I was looking for just an attempt at finding the Holy Grail, right? And all I get is a fucking word salad full of fucking dog turds, right? And a lot of fancy words, and you know, they are good, I'm good, they're bad, and you should just do as I say, right? There are always choices, right? There's no given choice. What if it's Adolf Hitler, right? Or the worst mass murderer in history that is drowning down there? Should I just throw myself into the waves and save the mass murderer, right? You have to be yourself. You have to make decisions, right? You have to be there. He can't sit in an office somewhere in Amsterdam or what the fuck he is, right? And tell you when you go on the cliff, you should jump in the waves and give me it's so stupid. He basically violates Hume's Izzard gap in an attempt to save it, right? He's basically saying, if you experience this, you should do this, right? Fuck off. This is ridiculous, man. I can't believe how ridiculous it is, right? It's atrociously bad philosophy, right? This is a preacher. This is a priest. This is a Protestant priest or something like that, right? Who wants to make you believe he's actually philosophizing, but he's basically just spouting his subjective bullshit on you, right? Which is possibly based on the child abuse he was put to through his parents or his peers and whatever, right? I have no patience with this shit, right? Okay, you probably can't see all of the text I'm showing here, but this is sort of atrocious, which is sort of apparently something, I don't know, the link to, there was a link from the page before, right? So I don't know, I don't care, Darren. I don't give a shit, to be honest. This is no good, right? It's ridiculous. It's what the fuck, man. And this was, you know, the best, one of the best articles they ever had or something like that. This was it, right? This is one of the most extraordinary, impactful essays we published. One of the most extraordinary, right? And one is the most stupid and ridiculous, right? Goddamn, okay, I'm just screwing around with the links here, right? So no matter. But, you know, 1.5 minutes left to the 1 hour mark. So, God damn. I always have a, you know, positive attitude when I'm going into thinking, maybe there's somebody who cracked the nut, right? And what I see is somebody who's just throwing words at me, right? So I don't bite at all. Okay. Share, like, and subscribe, please. Consider the board. Consider a donation. I would appreciate a donation if you think I'm doing good work here. And otherwise, see you in the next one.